Hello everyone, today I'll show you how to add a new weapon to my first-person shooter kit. So I've prepared a weapon, an AKM, with everything that we need, and the first thing I'll do is that I'll import everything. The next thing that we'll need to do is actually prepare everything. So what do I mean by that? First set up the rig of the weapon to just use one avatar. And what we should also do, we should disable animation compression, because it'll just look bad if we don't disable it. You don't necessarily need to do that, but I just prefer that way. And then I'll simply delete the created materials. Now it's pink, obviously, but I'll just create my own materials. So now it's just white. And then let's import it into a scene. We'll then set up the textures. These are for the arms. And set it to a normal map. You can just set them up how you like it, but normal map obviously needs to be marked as a normal map. So here are actually the world models. And the shell, for shell ejection obviously. I'll also delete the materials of those. And here I have the sounds. Those are the amazing sounds made by Navarro. This is, by the way, the AKM from my game Vengeance. Here I have the UI image for this weapon and set it to sprite. And also set the other normals to normal map. Now I'll create the needed materials. So we need weapon material, ammunition material, and the arm material. Just drag in the textures. As you can see, looks great. So do the same for the other two materials. Wait, and also set the correct shader, because this is a specular setup, not metal. We need to use specular shader. Now here we have the weapon. And it could be that, like in this case, you can't actually see it. And in this case it is because the weapon itself imported a camera, because it's an FBX file. But we still need the camera in my case. Just delete the camera itself. And also delete all unnecessary objects. So we don't actually need the controllers from 3ds Max, so we can safely delete those. Just make sure to not delete anything from the weapon itself. So as you can see, those dummies don't do anything, so I'll just delete them. And I'll need to do a little change here. And drag the bullets below the magazines so that they will move with them. That's because I have some modified animations here so that they will move correctly. So the next thing to do is assign the created materials. So these will actually use the AKM material, as you can see. And the two bullets will use the ammo material. Here looks correct. And at last, assign the arms. And also, if you have skinned mesh renderers, I'd always make sure that you check update when off screen, so that in case it goes slightly off screen but not completely, so that you will still be able to see it. So what we will do now is duplicate the FP generic animator and name it FP AKM, or in your case, the name of your weapon. I'll just drag it into the AKM folder so I have everything there. Now we will need to assign our new animations. So the weapon has 7 animations in total: draw, dry fire, fire, fire aim, put away, and 2 reload animations. So you could actually leave fire aim and dry fire out, and you could also just use 1 reload animation or 3 reload animations in case you are adding a shotgun or something that's procedurally reloaded. And now I'll just assign my animations to our duplicated animator. First assign the draw animation, assign the put away animation. Now if you have duplicated the FP generic animator, you'll need to change the speed from -1.5 to 1. Then assign our fire animations. Now here you could assign a fire last animation. I'll just assign my normal fire animation because it doesn't have last fire animation. You could also just, if you don't have a dry fire animation, you could just leave this blank. It's better than assigning the fire animation because that will look really weird. And assign your reload animations as well. If you don't have a procedurally reloaded weapon, you can also just delete those. We don't need them. And then don't forget to assign the animator to the actual weapon. And I'd also change culling mode to always animate, just in case. And I'll also disable the animator itself because the game, the scripts will enable it when it's needed. And next we will duplicate one of our, actually all prefabs here from the BAAR, because we will need them all, but we'll actually start with the first person prefab. I'll also drag those into the AKM folder, create a new folder for them. And also for the animator to keep everything organized. And I'll just rename those to AKM. Now we'll set up the first person prefab, just drag it into the scene. Now as you can see, the original weapon is much larger than the AKM. And you could actually leave it like that, but if you use the default walk and run animations, this will look really weird. But the good thing about this is that if your weapon is so small, it will not actually clip into walls. But I have a different solution for that, which I'm going to explain in another video, so we'll just scale it so that it resembles the same size. And now what we need to do is first unassign all renderers here. And we're not going to set up attachments as well, so just set attachment slot size to 0. Now, don't delete it yet, but drag out these things as we will need them for our new weapon. Now we can actually delete this one and just drag our new one in. Then we will need to adjust these and also delete the attachments because we don't need them yet. As you can see, the muzzle flash position is wrong, so just adjust it to your new weapon. And you can try it out in first person view like this. Looks good enough for now. And don't forget to adjust the shell eject position. Now this depends on how you set up your prefab, but I'll set it up so that the shell will actually be here, so I'll just move it there. Now don't forget to actually, make them a child of the actual weapon so that they will move with the weapon when it's animated. Now we'll need to assign our animator here into the anim variable and also assign our renderers. To make it easier, I'll just lock the inspector with the lock up here so that we can actually select those all, but don't assign the muzzle flash, and drag them all in here. And don't forget to assign your arms as well. And because we don't want our arms in the customization menu, we'll just drag them into this slot, and this will hide them when we use the customization menu. And the next thing to do is actually assigning the correct aim position. Now, as you can see, it's not lined up perfectly, so I'll just rotate it a bit until it's lined up correctly. Like that. And now I'll move it to the center here. Like that. And now if we look here, it's actually lined up almost perfectly, which is good enough for now. And just move it a bit backwards. How much you like it. So like that, it's really up to you. And then don't forget to actually copy position and rotation to the correct variables down here. And then we just need to reset this back to 0. The default run position will probably be good for most weapons. And then in case your weapons actually have camera animation, which I can show you right here. If we look at the weapon camera, it's actually animated, so we can assign it as well. Now in this case, this weapon doesn't have a look type, but actually rather a copy type, so I'll just assign this here. But in case you don't actually have camera animations, you can just disable it, but I'll leave it enabled. And then we'll just need to apply our prefab. And at last, don't forget to actually disable the renderers and also disable cast shadows. Do the same on your arms as well. And hit apply again. Now we'll set up the drop and third person prefab. As you can see, this is pretty much just a weapon with the attachments. As we have not assigned any attachments on our first person prefab down here, we will just set it to 0 as well. And also remove the LOD group if you duplicated this one as well. And then we'll drag in our weapon, AKM_W for world, and move it to the same position as the original one. In this case, I'll need to delete the bullet up here and assign the material just like for the first person prefab. And then I'll just move it here and remove the animator and delete the original weapon and apply the layer again just in case. Now you don't need to add any colliders because the actual drop prefab will do it, and that prefab will also spawn in the world prefab, so just hit apply as well. Now we'll need to set up our third person prefab. As you can see, it's set up pretty similarly to the first person prefab. So we also have shell eject position, muzzle flash, but we have hand IK position here. Now do the same as in the first person prefab and drag them outside. Then we'll drag this outside as well. And delete our original weapon. And don't forget to unassign the renderers. For some reason this was not assigned, but also set attachment slots to 0. And then drag in our third person prefab again. Oh no, wait, we still need the actual weapon like that so that we can position it correctly. So like that, I'd always recommend to assign, to line up the grip so that the right hand position will be correct, and for the left hand we'll use IK, but we'll adjust that one later. Then do the same as in the drop prefab. Assign materials. No, it looks good enough for now. So now we can delete it and actually drag this one here. Then we'll do the same as in the first person prefab and assign all our renderers. I locked this up again, which is always really useful when you need to assign a lot of renderers. Now we'll also need to line up our muzzle flash again. Or like that. And then when we're done with that, also line up the shell eject position. And then just parent them to the actual weapon. And don't forget to remove your animator. This will probably not cause any harm, but it can cause some very minor performance issues. And we don't really want that. And then hit apply as well. Now, well, your weapon doesn't necessarily have to have this, but I'll just set up the shell prefab as well, because we have a shell in this case. So as you can see, this one was set up differently. I'll just need to move this so that its pivot will be here. So like that. Then drag in your new model, which I have here. Now I'll just need to put it in the center of the collider. So like that. Don't forget to remove the animator and assign your material. And then hit apply. So this was so far everything for the prefabs. Now we need to create our actual weapon for the game to use. So I'll just duplicate the game informations of the BAAR. Like that. I'll move them into the folder as well. And rename them. Oh, don't forget to assign your new behavior to the duplicated weapon information. And rename the weapon. So in my case I actually have a weapon picture prepared, so also I'll assign that one as well. And now we need to assign our prefabs to our newly duplicated or created behavior. Up here, these ones are very important. As you can see, now it says attachment slots on the prefabs don't match because the BAAR has one attachment and the AKM has none. So we'll first need to assign every prefab. And that was the wrong one. It will also inform you if you have assigned a wrong one. And then assign your shell ejection prefab. And now we're pretty much done. Now we just need to assign our weapon to the game, which you can find here in the game information folder. Just drag the weapon in all weapons. And now we need to test it. Hit play. And first check out the loadout menu. As we can see, our weapon has appeared, and if we select it, we can now see it. So the IK position looks pretty much correct, but I'll just show you how you could adjust it if you needed to. So just go here, where your weapons in hand for holder for your third person prefab is. And then we can easily move around the left hand IK position So just move it where you need it to be, and then you can copy the transform and paste it to the prefab. So you can double click this and then paste it here. But I don't need to do it because it already looks correct. And then we can go in game. Make sure your weapon is selected. Oh, and as you can see, the weapon is here. But it still has the wrong sounds, but so far everything seems to work correctly. So we can aim down sights, we can run, jump, put it away, draw the weapon, reload. So now all that's left to do is to actually assign our sounds, which you can do here in settings. You can assign draw and put away sounds, and this is actually named wrongly, so I'll fix that in the next version. Just assign them here. And you can actually assign the reload sounds down here. And now you can also adjust your RPM, but this will not actually update until you respawn, because this will actually not change in game. So as you can see here, it now has the correct sounds.
Reloading, give me suppressive fire.
And as you can see in the shadow, we already have our correct model. So there's just pretty much one thing left to do, besides checking everything. And that is actually assigning our reload times. And now I'll show you how you actually get them. So you go to your animation and make sure that you can actually see it. So now we can slowly play the animation and find the right time when he actually inserts the magazine. So which is at 0.7 rounded. And the animation has a total length of 2.1 third. So we actually take 0.7 times the length. And that is our first length for the animation, or for the reload time. So we can actually calculate that in here. And then the rest, what's missing, is our second time. We don't actually need to do this. We can actually... Wait, that was wrong. You can just put it in reload time 1 if you don't want this COD style reloading. We need to do the same for reload empty animation. So 0.42 times 3.833. And the rest again is our reload time 2. So now we can actually test it. So watch down here, we enter the mag and we see it updated. But we can actually shoot until the second time is over as well. And then check the reload empty as well. And it works correctly as well. So now we can test our drop prefab, just suicide. And we can see our weapon drop prefab here. And there it is. If we can just find it real quick. You can also pick it up. As you can see, it says press F to pick up AKM. So now it's just time to test our weapon in third person. And for that purpose, we'll just use some bots. We can go through the bots. And here you can see one of them is using an AKM.
Target spot. Target spot. EKIA. Changing magazines. Cover me, I'm reloading.
Oh yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments or join our Discord server. You'll find a link to it in the description. And happy modifying!